Lizzie's workshop and this month's creative arts collaboration video. There's a giant group of artists that are getting together to put the word out and share each other's work and to introduce everybody and to get the word out that there are many creative YouTubers out there. This is the creative arts collaboration. This month is August and we are posting from the 20th to the 22nd in 2015 under the hashtag of pawgustart. And if you want to search for over 300 other artists, you can use that hashtag to look for their videos for this month. The other option that you have is if you want to put it down to just the art journal posts, like mine is, you can add this one in there too. When you do the double search, it'll pull up the pawgustart and the art journal projects and videos. So sit back, relax, grab your coffee, and get to work watching all the fabulous art from all over the world under the Creative Arts Collaboration. Today's art journal is going to start off with a napkin. So I went through my napkin stash and I kind of threw a whole bunch of stuff together and kind of just kept piling things on a pile until three things stood out. And those three things were this yellow napkin, a piece of paper that had chalkboard paint on it that I don't have shown here, and the background to a stamp set. It's a Paris stamp set from, I think, maybe a Prima set or maybe a Ranger set. Either way, I bought the set of stamps from a garage sale, and the reason that I bought the stamp set was actually for this paper. It was only $1 at the garage sale, so it all worked out. So the first thing I did is I separated out the napkin from the colored layer and the white layer, and then I ripped up the yellow layer so that I could use it in my collage. And I'm only creating this random kind of collage for the base, for the background, and then I'm going to add some other stuff on top of it. So I'm getting together all my collage materials. I'm going to have a bird-themed art journal, so I wanted to get some of these feathers. These feathers are from a company called The Darkroom Door, and they are rubber stamps, and this collection is called Feathers. I really like the Darkroom Door stamps because they're a little bit cheaper because you have to cut them apart yourself, and they come in like a DVD case, so they're easy to store. So I'm just doing these feathers over and over again because when I'm doing my mixed media backgrounds, I like to have patterns that repeat. And I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm going to cut apart all the feathers, but I'm going to have several of the like objects throughout the background, and that will help make it a little bit more cohesive. And I'm going to layer these. So once I have all of the pieces to my collage all figured out and ripped out and in a pile or in several piles, I'm going to reach for my matte gel medium, and I'm going to start gluing everything down. I'm going to do that in a very random fashion. So these ones I'm separating into like objects. So there's three different kinds of feathers in there, so I'm just going to cut them out and pile them up. The collage that I'm going to make is literally just grabbing one material, adding as much of it as I want, grabbing the next one and adding as much as I want, and then grabbing the next, adding as much as I want, and so on until the whole page is going to be covered. I am going to add some music to that, so you can just watch that with a little bit of music rather than me babbling about nothing. So I will be back. the next thing that I'm going to reach for is going to be Chalkboard Paint. Now this is a Prima Marketing Inc. product, and the color is called Jewel Blue, and I bought it from the craftshack.com. She's got all kinds of colors in her store, in her online store, and I love the size of container that it comes in, and I often just use whatever gets caught up in the lid. Now this is a quick drying chalkboard paint, and I don't need that much of it. I've used as much as I need, and so because it goes such a long way, I'm going to create a background with my brayer and the leftover paint, and I'm just going to grab my other art journal and skip it across the page until I can't pick anything else up off of the craft mat. And then I will go ahead and just grab a baby wipe and wipe down the craft mat to get all the paint off of it. I want to add my next layer right away. I have no patience, so I'm going to use my heat gun to kind of get the page hot so that it dries faster. And then comes the most important part. I didn't want to draw this owl. I didn't want to draw a bird. I didn't want to do any of that kind of thing. I didn't have any stamps that made me go, aha, that's what I need to do. So I grabbed this Canadian Geographic. It is a special collector's edition magazine for photography of 2015. It's called Best Wildlife. So I grabbed this book and I went flipping through it because it has all kinds of animals in it, and I found this owl, and the look in this owl's eyes is just so fantastic and pointed and like just so determined that the minute that I saw this picture I thought, oh, determination, that's what I'm going to journal about today. I'm going to journal about determination. So this, I'm obviously not the photographer of this. I'm cutting this out of a magazine, and the photographer who took the picture of this owl his name is Jim Cumming, and he lives in Ottawa, or at least this picture was taken in Ottawa of a great gray owl. So I'm going to cut it out. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space because the white space isn't going to really affect anything. And then I'm going to just fussy cut around the whole thing in 3 pieces, and then it'll be ready to adhere to the page. The fussy cutting is not an exciting venture, so I cut this first part out on camera, and then I fast forward through all the other little pieces until I'm at the point where all you see is the last couple cuts. See, watch magic! See? So all I did really was cut that out and took out that 5 minutes so that you wouldn't have to fall asleep on me. So next thing I'm going to do is go back and grab my art journal, and I'm going to grab my matte medium gel again and throw this on there, and I'm trying to figure out how I want it to be. And what ends up happening is I'm trying to fit it all on the page because I just love those end of the wing feathers, and I got to thinking, okay, do I want it swinging sideways? And I'm like, determination speaks to me in a head-on fashion. So I said, oh, never mind, it doesn't matter if the wings are off the page a little bit on both sides. I'm going to center this owl and make this all about determination. So then I grab and add some more texture to the background, because once I have all these layers on there and the chalkboard paint, those feathers really disappeared. So what I'm doing is I'm adding another layer of feathers in order to create a little bit more texture within the page. And they're quite transparent, like you can see what is happening below them. And that's one of the big things about mixed media, is balancing the transparent and opaque layers in a fashion that appeals to your eye. And I always say to myself and to my student and in all my projects that you are not finished until you love it, until you feel that it's finished. You know, if you're making something and I tell you, oh, it's done, it looks fabulous, but there's something that in your mind saying, okay, well, I don't feel done, then don't be done. I always go until I feel like I am happy with it, until I think that it's fabulous, and nobody really has to like it except for me. I am making the videos for the public, but at the same time, it's not finished until I love it. And even if people say they don't like it, then that's okay, because they don't have to live with it. And this is the same with any kind of art project, any kind of canvas, any kind of painting. It's not done until the artist deems that it's done, until the artist is ready to put their handprint or their signature on the piece. So that is what I do. I keep going until I feel like it's finished, which sometimes late at night I should just stop while I'm ahead, but the majority of the time it works out pretty well. So if you see what I did there, I put down a layer of the matte medium gel, and then I put matte medium gel on the back of the piece of paper, on the back of the magazine, and then I put it over the top and smooth it out with my brush. And I keep going over it over and over again till it's nice and smooth and there's no big bubbly air pockets underneath the owl. This is a really large piece of paper, and it's a glossy piece of paper, and it's a thick magazine page. So I have to make sure that I can get rid of the buckling, and by adding wet medium to allow the paper to be wet as possible without causing all kinds of bubbling, that makes it so that it'll all adhere together in one nice thick heavy layer. And the fact that my base is still a little bit wet from putting on the extra layer of feathers, that allows the page to become more cohesive as well, all the way from the bottom layer through to the top. And that's why I often like working wet. If I hadn't added the chalkboard paint, I would have just added the owl right away while the whole page was soaking wet, so that everything becomes this layer that's all joined together from bottom to top, and it becomes this solid, I want to say brick-like structure, but it's not that hefty. So I'm going over the rest of the page with the matte medium gel, and the reason that I'm doing that is I want to make sure that there is a consistent look. So I've gone over the owl with the matte gel, and then the chalkboard paint has a bit of a sheen to it. So in the event that I didn't go over it with the matte gel, make everything, homogeneous, then I would end up with, it would show very distinctly where I put my layer of matte gel and where I hadn't. So the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my letter stamps. They are just, I think they're a Recollections variety. I know that I have letters like this from another company, but I think that these ones are from Recollections, and that's like a Michaels brand. So I grab them, and I grab my little acrylic block, and I decide I'm going to write determination across the top of this page. Originally I thought, okay, I'm going to center the word determination, and when I got to the point of putting the word on, I forgot. I really just forgot. So I started on the left-hand side of the page, and I got to thinking that I am determined to get this word on there, and so I'm just going to put it on from the left-hand corner across the top, and then I'm going to start the word again. I'm going to make it so that I am determined and that it's going to be a repeated thing, that determination isn't a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's going to happen again and again and again. You have to be determined. You have to, even when your determination diminishes, you have to find a place to pick it up again and keep it going. That's what determination is, an unwillingness to quit. So I get this word in here and I keep going, put it on another time. The ink that I'm using here is called Black Stays On, and I picked that because it's not going to move if I add any water to it. It's going to be a permanent archival type of black, and I like the smell of it. It has kind of an almond extract kind of smell, and so I like to work with it for that reason as well. It's kind of an aromatherapy while art journaling idea. So once I get the words up top, I decided that for this journal I would put the date on this project. I don't normally. Usually I would just sign the bottom right hand corner, and with my signature I would put the year that I complete the project on. But this time, because this is for the Creative Arts collaboration, I decided that putting the date on it would be a perfect way to create balance within the page. So I've got it all black lettering all across the top, and then black lettering in the bottom right hand corner, and that kind of gives us the traditional or the typical design theory element of creating a triangle of interest. So what I've grabbed here are Stabilo pencils. They are a water-soluble pencil, and they are permanent once they are activated with water. And then I grab my little tiny brush and I you know, activated it with water, and I really wasn't satisfied with the overall impression that I was getting. So I had a little bit of beading in the water, and I had a little bit of places that things weren't becoming soluble enough, and the water was running off really quickly, and I was getting a little bit frustrated with that. So I colored in big swatch here, and I needed a bigger brush to do that whole space, and so I kept hold of that big flat head brush. It's more of like a wedge, but it is the square tip. Next thing that I do is I grab my black one, and I'm trying to create a little bit of shadow. I'm trying to make it so that this owl, who is determined to, I don't know what, I want this owl to pop off the page. The artist, the photographer, did such a fabulous job in capturing the look on this owl's face that I don't want to lose that. I don't want to diminish it by allowing the color of the owl to settle into the page and kind of disappear. I want this owl to pop off the page and look like it is actually flying away or flying towards you. So what I did there is I took this wedge brush and I added a swatch of water, you know, a couple millimeters away from the wing. And the reason that I did that is I want the water to flow. I don't want a hard edge as a shadow, because a shadow isn't a hard edge. I wanted to have it moving, and I want it to have a mind of its own, and I wanted it to create its own element in this area. And see there, I added a little bit extra water, and I pulled it down a little bit, and I got that color, that black, moving. See, so I've added water just a little bit of ways away, and then as I activate the rest of it, it flows across the page. So I had a lot of water in this page, and I didn't know how to deal with that, so I decided to let it drip down the page, and that was great. It created the shadowing that I wanted. And then I had some drips at the bottom that were really just making a mess, so I absorbed them with a dry brush and then just wiped it off on a baby wipe. So once I have that black layer on there, I'm really happy with the way that it's making things pop. But as I look at it and as I dry it, I'm noticing that it's not enough. It's not quite the impact that I wanted from it. So I'm going to have to do another layer of the black. So I dried it all nice so that the black will actually work. And while I'm waiting for even just the little spots to dry, I went through with this word stamp. It's a W+9 Design Studio stamp set, and it's a bunch of text that talks about being thankful and blissful and delighted and grateful and tickled pink and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just all this happy kind of phrases. But my intention in adding that stamp to the background was to add like a whole bunch of little tiny bits of texture, a whole bunch of little tiny bits of activity to the background, so that the giantness of the bird would pop right off of that page. I wanted the bird to no longer sink into the background. I wanted it to become its own entity. And so having that tiny little bit of texture and all that little detail in the black in the background allowed the bird to really pop off the page. And then I once again went through here and darkened everything up and went through with another layer of black to make that owl really look like it's coming off of the page. And I was really happy with the way that this page ended up. And the feeling of being finished isn't quite there, but it's close enough. Here are the still pictures up close. You can see all the different layers that I got in there, how that bird is very, very determined to get off that page, and there's my finished project. Thanks for watching this creative arts collaboration for pawgustart.